All right, everybody, we are ready. We're ready for the game you have added to the schedule, which is to say Hollow Knight, current patch, any percent by Allison8Bit. Take it away.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for getting us to be here. It was $3,000 is a ton, but it's going to such an amazing charity. I'm so excited to be here. I'm joined by Quacksilver Plays,
Hello.
and we are just gonna get right in on it. All right, so this is Hollow Knight. There are a bunch of different patches that people play for this game, and this one here is 1432, which is one of the most recent, the latest patches that people tend to run on. 1221 is the primary speed patch, but this one has a couple of different things. And a lot of people like playing the newer ones because of various reasons. And so I guess the basics are we're going to go beat up the Hollow Knight after getting some Dreamers to open up Black Hag Temple. And to do that, we're going to get a couple abilities and make our way through Hollow Nest. Some basics are that we are in Chinese because it is fastest, as it would be in most speed games. Whatever the fastest language is what you're playing in. And we also have this little thing at the top left of the screen, which is our soul. And 3 hits of soul gives us a spell or a heal.
So while Allie's working through the little tutorial area, just to talk about a little bit of the basic platforming in this game. Like Allie mentioned, we are on specifically patch 1432 of Hollow Knight. Because of the somewhat erratic release schedule for patches in this game, we've had a number of them get sort of labeled under the current patch umbrella for various reasons. Some of the tricks that are specific to this patch of the game will come up much later on the final fight, but you just saw Allie land one of them there, which is when you hardfall on this patch, you can open and close your inventory very quickly to remove some of the end lag of this animation. That's very similar, but not quite the same thing as an inventory drop, which you'll see Allie go for in a couple of rooms here, where the physics frame you walk off of a ledge, you can open your inventory, and if you get it, it will uncap your fall speed and remove the hardfall entirely. So this is the big room where that really matters in the run. And the Gruzzers are RNG, so sometimes that happens.
Luckily, it's not too bad. It saves a bit of time to get it, but it's not the biggest time loss to miss it. So this is the first arena. There's not a ton that we actually do in the speedrun, but we need to just get through here. Do a little cool double spike kill.
Yet environmental objects can be driven through the skulls of aspids. Those aspids actually spawn with a random delay in the second wave, so Allie is reacting there in order to be able to get the double spike kill. The early game being comprised of a lot of flying enemies with random patterns actually makes it a little bit obnoxious at times. Just the amount of RNG before the first major ability can be a bit of a drag for world record attempts, but fortunately it is all very manageable in a marathon setting.
And yeah, right now we're making our way over to the first boss of the run, which is False Knight. And False Knight's just going to be a little tutorial of how boss fights work in this, showing how there's staggers, multiple phases, and some other stuff.
And we're actually going to be avoiding this boss as much as possible. There is a dev-intended shortcut, or early exit to the fight. So Allie's going to do one phase only of the False Knight fight. He'll drop down in a second here. At which point, when the False Knight enters his little tantrum phase, he's actually going to break that wall over to the left for us, or at least make it breakable, so that we can skip right on over to our first major ability. Ending this segment with a pretty remarkably high geo count for any percent. That's our currency in the top left there. The any percent run has a notable geo breakpoint about halfway through the run that you really need to hit. there is one very, very expensive item that's going to be required for the mid-game, and also some of the knock-on geo from that will carry us through to the rest of the run. It doesn't usually matter how much geo you get in the very first split of the run, but 24 is a pretty good number to have, and this is our Vengeful Spirit ability. You'll also probably hear us abbreviate it as VS, or simply call it Fireball, because that's what it is. It is a long-range fireball.
And we're going to use this for multiple different things. It is primarily our damage source, but will also be used in a handful of skips.
After you get VS...
Oh, go ahead.
After you get VS, the game locks you in this little tutorial area to make sure you understand how to use VS. At the back, there is an enemy called the Elder Balder that is immune to close-up damage. He curls up into an invincible ball when you get too close. He takes 4 fireballs to kill. The Knight's soul gauge only holds enough for 3 fireballs, so we have to rely on him to randomly spit out an enemy we can use to gather soul. It is a perfectly random 50-50 odds. Let's see how lucky we're feeling today. Pretty lucky.
We take those. The record is 19 between the 2 different boulders we have to fight. 19's non-boulder spits, which is pretty wild.
We unfortunately have one more of those coming up. The combined number, I think, is something like 28. It's truly ridiculous. So if you ever want to go for the most infuriating world record in all of Hollow Knight history, grind some boulder RNG. But yeah, this room is on the way up, is just about gathering soul back up to the maximum to be able to make the second boulder as painless as possible.
That went pretty well.
You know, we'll take it.
Third spit is definitely on the better side of what you can get there.
Yeah, sometimes boulders just decide you will not play the game today. With that, we're into Green Path. If the Ancestral Mound was the sort of basic casual fireball tutorial, Green Path is the speedrunner's fireball tutorial. We're going to be coming up on several rooms in quick succession here, where we're going to perform a trick called fireball skipping. The actual act of casting Vengeful Spirit stalls you in the air and pushes you back slightly, which you can use to reach otherwise inaccessible gaps. There are 2 fireball skips that Allie's going to go for in this run. Fortunately, they both do have backups if things go a little awry.
That's fine.
That's fine. We got a friendly squid here named Eric, who's going to do us a solid and make a pogoable help.
There we go on that one.
That's the fireball skip right there. So that saves having to walk all the way around through this room. And coming up in this next room, we're going to fight a Moss Knight in a second that, in the best case scenario, is going to also serve as a lesson for how our damage works. Yeah, so right there, you saw Allie get a double hit with Fireball. Your base nail does 5 damage in this game. Single hit Vengeful Spirit right now does 15, so being able to double enemies means that you're doing 6 times your nail damage already without any upgrades, which is why spells are far and away our damage source for this and indeed most runs of Hollow Knight.
I actually need that geo.
Yep, looking good. We do unfortunately have to save Zoth the Mighty in this run, but not for him, just for the money that the Vengefly King there provides. And with that, we're going to be getting into Hornet here, who is the subject of the much acclaimed sequel to this game that now I can talk about actually existing, and is also sort of the first major difficulty spike in Hollow Knight. Hornet, like most bosses, operates on a stagger system, so you want to get a number of hits nail or fireball in quick succession, and ideally keep Hornet locked in a corner there, or if not, get doubles as she tries to back up. The needle throw attack that she did there actually resets her stagger count, so it is pretty useful for just being able to pile on damage, and that was a very clean Hornet fight for a pretty jumpy Hornet.
Yeah, I will not complain there. It was a pretty solid fight. This gives us the dash ability. And you'll notice now I'm actually quitting out. Quitting out is going to be our fast travel that is the less intentional one that they give us in this game. Every time you quit out, you'll go to the last bench you sat at, or in this case, the last bench the game forces you to take. And here that saves us a bunch of time for going all the way back around to get to the fungal waste, which is where we're going next.
And in Fungal Waste, where we're headed next, we're going to be picking up the Mantis Claw, which is absolutely the holy grail of abilities in this game. So much of the game is built around the wall jump it provides.
Who would have thought Metroidvania would want a wall jump ability?
No, right? Dash, combat, wall jump. These are the sugar, spice, and everything nice of the genre.
That was the fungal drop room. There's lots of different ways of doing that. I did unfortunately take a hard fall, but it's not too bad, honestly. Didn't fall in the acid, which is the real frustrating thing in that room.
Yeah, the hazard respawns in that room can get a little bit wacky. So the game, we have these pogoable mushrooms here. One of the mechanics of Hollow Knight that is now sort of iconic and omnipresent is pogoing things to gain height, but the game never really fully explains that to you. These mushrooms are intended to be the tutorial for that, but sometimes you just get stuck there for a while casually. And this trick is called Explosion Pogo. First try. Let's go, Allie.
Very clean. Was nervous about that one.
Yeah, it's named Explosion Pogo because in earlier patches of the game, you actually pogo the explosion that projectile generates, but on current patches, you can't anymore. They took that out, so we just pogo the actual spore instead. And with some quick enemy AI manips to be able to pogo up off those mantises, we now have our Mantis Claw. That's the wall jump.
Yep, and we're going to go back to the Ancestral Mound one more time with the save and quit. And this will take us over. So we're going to go get Gruzmother, go get a stag, and go get our most important charm until the final fight.
Yeah, and this is going to be mostly just repeat motion for a few rooms here. So this would be a great time if we have any donations or messages from our host.
Absolutely. Fresh from the previous run, we have a $100 donation from Freya's Spirit. Thank you so much. Saying, let's make Path of Pain happen. Yes, and with that donation, we're now more than 10% of the way to seeing what the kind of hard Path of Pain side segment is at the end of this run. And we also have $5 from Nyx saying, good luck, Ali. Hollow Knight for gay rights. Thank you. And $50 from Emma164. Heart.
Awesome. Yeah, Path of Pain's a little bit hard. I was watching the Super Meat Boy run earlier. Meat Boy is a game that I absolutely do not have the hands to play, and the runner was saying that Path of Pain was harder than Super Meat Boy, which is a wild call to me. So let's make good on that incentive, huh? It's a little bit hard.
Got some bad RNG by Gruzmother there.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's a fast damage rotation that you saw Ali go for there, but just sort of picks off Gruzmother. You need to get 6 nail slashes at the end, and if she flies straight up, it can be a little bit annoying to recover, but we handle that, and that also gives you a couple of casts of Fireball at the end of the fight, your goal being you want to mop up the babies that she spawns as efficiently as possible. And this is the charm for 90% of the run that Allie's buying here. This is the Shaman Stone charm. When equipped, it will increase our fireball damage from 15 to 20, but perhaps even more importantly, it will notably increase the size of the hitbox, so it makes doubling with fireball considerably easier.
Right there, I did a little inventory knockback cancel, which will be used a lot in the final fight. But don't want to do it when I'm dying, though. It causes a major glitch.
Narrowly avoiding there. And which also does raise the question, we did die here. Not only to keep the marathon timer a little hype, but dying in Hollow Knight spawns a Pogoable Shade, which is a nice assist to make it up to Blue Lake. Some serene dashing across water.
Yeah, the shade skips are a really cool thing in this run. Unfortunately, we don't get to do it outside. I think this is the only one in the entire run. The only intended death in the run. That is. But yep, right now we're on our way to go get the Dream Nail, which is a really interesting, a moderately annoying platforming section. Very easy to fall into an abyss. You don't die, it just...
Yeah, fortunately, it's not a hazard. It's just some free time loss. But Dream Nail is our major story progression item in the game. Like Ali mentioned at the very beginning of the run, we need the Dream Nail because in order to access the final boss, we need to break the seal on its location, which requires finding the 3 Dreamers who are conveniently spawning in around there. So, Dream Nail is hard required. It was actually very recently discovered that on one specific patch of the game that was only out for about 10 minutes, the Dream Nail was actually more of a suggestion than a requirement, and you could just politely knock on the Dreamers with your regular nail. But we're going to be getting the Dream Nail, since that does feel a little bit glitchy for a no major glitches run of the game.
And we have our Dream Nail now. We're going to see if I can get this skip. This is a skip called the Seer skip, and it requires 3 frame-perfect dashes after you unpause during a cutscene.
Yep, so I was going to pause and unpause to gain control early here, and then essentially mash dash out of the room, almost. Well, on the right side, we get to say hi to the Seer.
Yeah. If you miss it, it's not too bad. You just get to be closer to the exit anyway. Yeah. There's an inventory drop there.
Ideally, you do it to just wake up outside of the rooms, because waking up inside the room locks your knight into a little animation. But now we are approaching the City of Tears, and with the City of Tears comes the absolute hard wall of the run, widely loathed by many, especially first-time any percent attempters. We're going to be going to Watcher Knights here in just a second. First, though, you have to do a little bit more economizing, because that major geo breakpoint is fast coming up. So Ali is going to be working her way down the city towards Stag Station at the bottom here, and picking up a number of relics, which are overworld collectibles that you can sell to a particular shopkeep that is the fastest way to get geo in this game. So there's a Wanderer's Journal here. There's going to be a Hallow Nest seal in just a little bit. And this segment of the run is basically building the entire econ for the rest of it.
Some nice little spike pogos are going to be happening here. Again, they totally want you to do lots of pogos. They just don't tell you that you should be doing pogos. Take the safety bench. And yeah, so now we're going to be going over to fight Gorgeous Husk. Gorgeous Husk is a nice little enemy with lots of geo.
Yes, she drops a particularly nice amount of geo, which I am rooting for Ali to collect all of. So with Gorgeous Husk, you can really see the benefit of Shaman Stone, just in terms of being able to double hit Gorgeous Husk with a ton of fireballs, drop her HP very, very quickly, and all 1 extra from the enemies in the room. You hate to see it.
But yeah, a little low on the geo right now, but should be fine. I'll get a little bit of extra geo right here.
Yep, we're going to flip this lever open for later. It opens a path back, but now we're going to go to Watcher Knights. The game technically intends for you to have wings, which is the double jump ability, but the devs put that convenient breakable background object right there, and if it's breakable, it's pogoable, and if it's pogoable, you can be sure that we are going to pogo it in order to not have to get wings, which would be a multi-minute detour. Next, Allie is going to be fighting an enemy called the Great Husk Sentry down below here. Great Husk Sentry carries a giant shield and also deals double damage, so this is a little bit of a frustrating appetizer to the already frustrating Watcher Knight split. One of the major differences about the current patch speedrun of the game, nice dash, versus the earlier patch speedruns of the game is that on 1221, which is the sort of unrestricted speed patch for the game, you could hit levers in city through walls, and so it's actually possible to skip this entire fight. But in uppatching to current patch, we trade that for a game that runs a lot smoother and a couple other tricks up our sleeve for later in the run.
I open up that lever right there just in case I need to, if I die, I can get back to that bench. And it's a lot easier to get back here rather than, losing the whole run.
100%. So the Watcher Knights spawn 5 successive, since we just dropped a chandelier and killed one of them, 5 successive enemies that have big nails and roll around the entire screen. There's a damage rotation here that, you see Allie going for that involves staying very close to the Watcher Knights where possible. And ideally, we want to see them roll fully cross-map so that you can double hit them as they roll away from you. In the successive waves, 2 of them are going to spawn at once. The best grouping for Watcher Knights is, again, you want to keep them together, or at least both on the same side, so that you can do as much damage as possible with a single cast of VS. And these Watchers are being surprisingly cooperative. Maybe I spoke a bit too soon.
Good sync on those.
Yeah. And keeping the pairs dying together at roughly the same time also helps the fight progress faster, because that way we make it to the final pair, also with synced HP, so your damage rotations, again, it's just about maximizing the number of fireballs you throw at Watcher Knights. Yeah, that was a very clean Watchers. GG, Allie.
Thank you. Yeah, that was not a bad one at all. So now we're making our way up to get the first of the 3 Dreamers we need to get.
I have a question.
Lurian?
The question.
I see a lot of capital O in the chat. Was that meaning something?
There's an emote that's been going around quite frequently, and a lot of people tend to like to use that emote.
I see. I know this game has its share of impressive ooh sounds from enemies, so I wasn't sure.
That is also true. Yeah, no, let's get that started. That's now a Power Up with Pride thing. Pick your favorite bug vocalization, drop it in the chat.
All right, so yeah, we need to get 3 of these total Dreamers, and this is the first of them. The next one is blocked by an enemy, and the last one is just blocked by a very scary place. But both should be fairly easy to get to. And once we have all that done, we get to go fight our step-sibling. Our full sibling?
Our very, very beefy step-sibling. Not all the protein powder that we didn't get as children. Gonna go for a trick called Gamer Drop, second try, still a gamer. That's just the longest vertical column in the game, so inventory dropping down it looks sick.
All right, we have perfect amount of geo right now.
So with the Watcher Knights rewards, the reason we do Watcher Knights so early in the run is because they give you 655 geo and a Hallow Nest seal. So Watcher Knights by themselves are 2/3 of the necessary econ for the remainder of the game. So we're gonna do a quick trip to the shopkeeper I mentioned earlier, Relic Dealer Len. We're going to sell 2 seals and a journal. And the geo breakpoint you want to hit here is about 2,300, a little bit more geo, which will cover the expensive purchase we're about to make, which is an item called the Lumafly Lantern, as well as some stags and incidentals later in the run.
Yeah, if you can hit 2350, which I think we certainly should, we have 1100 in geo and from the relics, so that's kind of like the number I aim for if I'm like trying to be like extra safe.
Yeah. And for some reason, when you get a Dreamer, Lem steps outside his shop to go look at this nice fountain. So there was a nice fountain for you to look at, too. Now we're actually going to sell to Lem and progress on in the run. So the item we need in this next split is the Lumafly Lantern, like I mentioned. The Lumafly Lantern is not strictly required in Hollow Knight in general. There are only a tiny handful of things gated by it. Notably, there are several rooms that are in the dark. Usually, you can just do them in the dark, which requires obviously memorizing the platform layouts and things of that nature. However, in order to access the Crystal Peaks area, which is where we're headed next, there is a toll that is only loaded in if the room is illuminated. And the alternate path to getting into Crystal Peak takes far too long, so the any percent run has to sort of suck it up and buy the lantern, which will also incidentally illuminate some dark rooms later in the run. That is just a nice convenience to have.
Yeah, now we're just making our way out of city back over to Dirtmouth. And so you notice, like, when I was at the toll there, I was actually looking down a couple times. Looking down on the toll is found to be faster for some reason. It'll be used in a few other spots, but we don't really understand why it does that, but it is faster.
Yeah, that's notably used in the toll to get into Crystal Peak in just a second here. So we stag all the way back to Dirtmouth. We rescued Sly a minute or two ago. That was shortly after the Gruzmother fight. So that he specifically finds his way back to Dirtmouth, and we can buy the lantern from him. Allie also benched in Dirtmouth. That's to set a hard save up for later.
Yep. We're going to go get the Crystal Heart ability from Crystal Peak. But first we need to get through some quite annoying enemies. Maybe the most annoying enemies?
Yeah, so when you get a single Dreamer, the Crossroads actually infects. It's one of the world progression things about the game, which makes the enemies in it a little bit more aggressive. I myself can't do this room infected without taking 4 damage pretty regularly. That was a very clean infected Vengefly room. We will take that and run with it.
And there's that look down again. Healing also makes the tolls and stuff go faster. We really don't understand. This game is held together with spaghetti and duct tape, so.
And love.
And love, true.
Sometimes I wish I was held together with spaghetti. It sounds delicious.
So the name of the game in Crystal Peak is Cycles, especially after these first couple of rooms here. Whether it is lasers or conveyor belts and lasers, both of the moving bugs and stationary bugs variety, it's all about optimizing what cycles you can get. The lamps in the background are pogoable objects, and there's a setup there where you can pogo off the lamp on the right to sort of sneak up the rightmost column. We get a quick backup and into the main event of Crystal Peak. It's going to go by fast, but essentially at the start of the next room, when Allie reaches the laser bug cycle, there is an intentional damage tank you can perform that will set up the rest of the cycles pretty consistently. And by pretty, I mean 100% consistently. So, as soon as we make it to the lasers...
Damage tank.
And the rest of this more or less plays itself. With the exception of the most important trick in the run,
Underplat.
which is called Underplat. Woo, Underplat. You go under that
100%.
platform. It
Have to go
saves
for
less.
it.
Yeah, no, it saves less than half a second, and it is like it's the moral standing test for Hollow Knight runners. It is also faster, so that helps considerably.
No, I think the moral standing test is if you save the grub in Beast Den.
That is also true. We do have that to look forward to.
All right, in this room,
I forget which side of that you come down on, Allie. I'm excited to learn.
I save the grub, of course. Who wouldn't save a grub? So this is actually some of my favorite movement. It's just really tricky. I missed the inventory drop, but that's fine. This whole section just has like a lot of really cool movement. There's a skip, there's a really cool drop, there's the C-dash. Oh, I guess we should explain Crystal Heart now, shouldn't we?
Yeah, so that's Crystal Heart. It is infinite horizontal movement. It also lets us skip needing to get the acid swim ability with tricks like that, where you C-dash off of the lower edge of a wall. Every single acid pool in this game is skippable in some fashion with Crystal Heart, except for one, where the geometry makes it skippable, but the game simply puts an invisible wall when you don't have the acid swim ability for one acid pool, and it's not one that's really used in most speedruns.
We have full health here.
But now...
we don't need this bench. We're going to take it for safety because we're onto the best boss fight of the run.
So Umu is a little bit homophobic. Umu is a boss that is only damageable in vulnerable phases. We need our friend Quirrell, who we've mostly skipped, I think, entirely meeting at all, even randomly, in this run. Umu also can randomly choose to throw out extra attacks before her vulnerable phase, and she's very bouncy. So getting consistent damage rotations on her on this patch is very, very tricky. The Dream, the Pipe Dream, which requires ridiculous setups as well as a little bit of luck, is a 2-cycle Umu. I think anything 4-cycle or below is absolutely wonderful in a marathon context. And this is a pretty good phase 1 as far as damage rotation goes. Yeah, once again, you see just taking advantage of the double hits of Vengeful Spirit. Oh no, the Dream Nail drop!
Oh, a little bit short.
Oh. Yeah, that looked pretty close too. At least we're not getting many extra attacks. So Umu can randomly throw either a short attack or a long attack. Umu can only throw a maximum of 2 of the same type of attack in a row, and of course on the last cycle, gonna throw double long attack. And can also sometimes, there's an example extra, you notice it was a short because it had to be. And
yeah. One fireball.
It's always like that. That's always how Umu is. Watcher Knights definitely kills new runners a lot more, but Umu crushes their spirit.
And this will get us the second of our 3 dreamers. Hi, Quirrell. Thanks for the help.
Yeah. Shows up, stabs a jellyfish a bunch, opens the way to a dreamer, refuses to elaborate, leaves. Quirrell's a pretty stand-up dude. So after Allie absorbs Monomon, our second dreamer, dreamers in this game are a hard save. Our save point is locked right in front of the dreamer, which is why we didn't quit out of Lurian and why she can't quit out of Monomon. So we're gonna have to walk all the way back up to Archives and do some movement to enter the next area of the game, which is gonna be Deep Nest. So this would also be another time just to check in on that Path of Pain incentive and donations and messages.
Absolutely. We have $100 donations from Ooh, which a comment that says Ooh. So thank you so much, Ooh, for that donation.
Incredible.
We also have $500 by Alaskan Emily. Thank you so much. Oh, good gosh. With the comment that says, I'm so glad to see how well this event has gone. So many wonderful runs, all kinds of consoles, all levels of retro to modern, all kinds of wonderful runners. The amount of support and positivity in this community is simply amazing. Hashtag trans rights. Yeah.
Hashtag trans rights.
Thank you so much for your donation. Also, we have $50 from Chrysanthemouth saying, let's go, Ali.
So fantastic. So much support. All going to such a good cause. So now we have 2 of the 3 Dreamers. We need to make our way to the last one, which is hiding over in the Beast Den through Deep Nest. I will say right here, if you don't like spiders, there will be a lot of spiders here.
Yeah, we'll see you in a bit. But first, let's talk about why we are running specifically on patch 1432. So, Ali is going to be maneuvering down to Deep Nest to pick up a specific charm. Shaman Stone is the most useful charm in Hollow Knight, bar none. It's not particularly close. However, on this patch of the game specifically, there is an exploit that we are going to see in a little bit with the final boss that I won't spoil just yet, but it is dependent on the Spore Shroom charm. So unlike some any percent runs, in particular 1221 any percent runs, which take an alternate path through the Queen's Gardens to get to Hera, instead we are going through Deep Nest specifically so that we can grab this charm. This route as a whole loses a little bit of time to QG overall, but makes up most of that time back on the Spore Shroom fight by itself.
Yeah, it's about 20 seconds slower, but of that, it's like 35 seconds of that is in the movement from Queen's Gardens. Huh?
So we got a couple more cycle rooms on our way into Deep Nest with these Garpedes.
I'm gonna take this all super careful. Don't want to randomly die here.
Yep, there is an optimal set of movement here that requires 2 damage tanks, and many a runner has gone for it on 2 health, and that's
many a runner or many a quack.
Certainly many a quack, but I also don't think I'm alone on that. So yeah, that's another pretty pivotal inventory drop. That's a pretty big drop right there. So this hot spring, in addition to healing, Ali is also going to bring her to full soul, which is just nice QOL for Deep Nest. And with that, we have entered the spider zone.
Yep. Spiders aren't too realistic, but the game does make it still pretty scary, even for cartoon spiders.
Yeah, Deep Nest freaked me out casually. I was not a fan. I'm still not a fan. This section is, you see the Knight has his lantern out. This section is ordinarily dark. Dark Deep Nest is not a personal favorite of mine, so thankfully the any percent route incidentally gets the lantern. There are plenty of categories of this game that do demand Dark Deep Nest of the runner. For instance, the All Skills run has a couple of dark rooms in it. A lot of the longer categories will do some dark rooms, both in Crystal Peak and here.
Steel Soul any percent, where we get through here without lantern and then buy lantern for Crystal Peak later.
One of the runs of all time. Yeah, this last room is a little bit annoying. This spider, what we really want to avoid is the spider knocking you into spikes, which of course would deal 2 damage, but also hazard respawn you in a bit of an uncomfy spot. But good handling of that, and we are into the Beast's Den. So like Ali mentioned, Lurian and Monomon are guarded by bosses, but Hera, our final Dreamer, is only guarded by a rather nasty area. You see Ali here tilting to the left on this trapped bench. That's specifically to make the music from here persist through Beast Den. It's just a weird little audio glitch that you see runners go for most of the time.
It has some nice violins. What can I do? Not go for it?
So the Beast Den is demarcated by these stalking devouts, which deal double damage and have a very nasty attack pattern. So the strat there, like you see Ali do, is you dash into them intentionally, because contact damage is only single hit damage, but their claws deal 2. So 3 fireballs, dash into them, getting nail hits in between, and then a 4th fireball to finish. There is one more required devout kill that hopefully we'll be able to fill up on soul and get the same exact pattern in. But the platforming here, full of spikes and spiders, and once again, these are not being a tremendously cooperative bunch today. And here is the Beast Den Grub, which you save, which it's correct to save, at Hollow Knight Runners in the chat. Grubs are the only souls worth saving in Hallow Nest.
Alright, 4 health plus full soul should be simple here.
Yeah, about as good as you could ask for. Lean. And we're actually pretty nicely over on Geo here. The Devouts do drop over 40 each, but you want to be at least 250 here, because we have to take 1 stag back for the end of the run, and you really do not want to be short on Geo for that stag. It can be a bit of a pain to have to farm additional Geo inside the Beast Den in order to make it back home.
And yeah, so we now have opened up Black Egg Temple, as this next cutscene is going to show. Oh yeah, there's this place called Black Egg Temple. We haven't walked by it or been to it at all yet, but it's open now, which is important.
It's important, trust us.
I think the opening cutscene showed us.
Yeah, now is, I think, time to start talking about the funny little charm in your inventory.
Room?
On 1432, and only 1432, it is not only the only like class of patch, but specific. Not even all of the current patches have this exploit. Sporeshroom interacts in a very odd way with the Hollow Knight's hitboxes, which is to say it hits each of them independently, meaning Sporeshroom ordinarily is a damage over time that deals like 1 damage per tick up to around 30. It does between 4 and 5 times that amount of damage to the Hollow Knight. So rather than the conventional or 1-2-2-1 fight, which you use Shaman Vengeful Spirit, attempt to get double hits on certain attacks, and sort of stay close to him and try and keep piling on damage, Ali's just gonna get hit a bunch and then heal it off. And she mentioned earlier, the inventory, if you get hit with your inventory open, you don't actually get knocked back from taking the damage. So we're going to abuse that fact to take damage as close as possible to the Hollow Knight, so that you can keep healing to keep doing ridiculous, insane Sporeshroom damage, and it just stacks on and on and on. So this fight can get very, very fast if the Hollow Knight stays close.
Yeah, and there's a bench over here, but we don't even need to take it, because by going into the chamber with the Hollow Knight, you actually get a free save here. So worst case scenario, I take a death here, I'll be respawned right back there and be able to get back in. So all we're going to do is smack some chains.
Gotta wake him up first. Yes, and I should mention, the getting hit is not just for activating Sporeshroom. It is possible to heal with Sporeshroom at full health and still get the damage over time effect. However, whenever you take damage, it resets the internal cooldown that Sporeshroom has to be able to do damage again. Normally it takes a little bit of recharge time, but with that, with getting hit intentionally, you're able to stack Sporeshrooms something like twice as fast. And since you're healing anyway, it is hopefully a non-lethal fight for the night. That was an odd air time you got there from that parry inventory tank. Yeah, so the Hollow Knight's already screaming once. Hollow Knight fight, he's got 4 phases with little locking you in place screams in between them. The big one is the second scream, where the Hollow Knight will start stabbing itself repeatedly, which we just hit here. While the Hollow Knight is stabbing himself, all incoming damage is reduced to 1. Fortunately, the ticks of Spore Shroom do 1 anyway. Yeah, and that's already the final scream. So THK has like 1,000 health. You would not believe it from watching the Spore Shroom fight. And he gains some more infected attacks in the final phase, but that's already going to be the Hollow Knight fight, and that is Hollow Knight any percent. Time is coming up in just a second here. It'll be when Allie fully absorbs the radiance from inside the Hollow Knight, and once the screen fully fades to black.
Pretty good fight, all things considered. Also, any fight where you're just taking damage and healing is just very interesting.
Yeah, that's time, just in case I don't see the tracker. Do you have a loadless timer up, Allie? That felt like a pretty clean run.
39:18, so sub 40.
Nice, GG.
Can't complain about that too much.
A very impressive run, for sure.
All right, well, how are we doing on the Path of Pain incentive?
Should we worry about swapping over, or is this our conclusion, our thrilling conclusion?
Let me just double check it. Yes, this is our thrilling conclusion. We gave it a good shot, though. We ended at 1,144 out of 5K. So thank you so much, everybody, for all of your donations to the Trevor Project.
Thanks everyone for piling on in here. This is a great cause to support, and I really appreciated being able to help close this down. Shout outs to Allie for a fantastic run, and Power Up with Pride for having us, and to all of the Hollow Knight community, especially now that this other game finally has a crumb of news. Now is a great time to get involved in the Hollow Knight franchise of speedruns.
Oh my gosh, the Hollow Knight franchise.
I know, right? I never thought I'd be able to say that on a mic. There are more categories, more resources, more runners every single day for this community, and I can only imagine that takes off in the future. So the time is now. If Metroidvania speedrunning has ever been interesting to you, hop along. It's a grand amount of fun.
You can feel free to catch me at twitch.tv/Allison8Bit, and Quack you can also find at twitch.tv/QuackSilverPlays. We both do a variety of different speedruns, primarily in the Metroidvania genre, but there's other things that we both do, so feel free to check us both out over there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. This was amazing. Did not realize you could play this game this fast.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Sit tight. We're about to gather some radiance of our own as we get the staff together for the finale. So see you in just a few moments.